Ahead and start our recording. Welcome everyone, and I will share our screen today. We are on A Course in Miracles, Chapter 8, Section 3, The Holy Encounter. Glory to God in the highest, and to you because He has so willed it. Ask, and it shall be given you because it has already been given. Ask for light and learn that you are light. If you want understanding and enlightenment, you will learn it because your decision to learn it is the decision to listen to the teacher who knows of light and can therefore teach it to you. There is no limit on your learning because there is no limit on your mind. There is no limit on his teaching because he was created to teach. Understanding his function perfectly, he fulfills it perfectly because that is his joy and yours. To fulfill the will of God perfectly is the only joy and peace that can be fully known, because it is the only function that can be fully experienced. When this is accomplished, then there is no other experience. Yet the wish for other experience will block this accomplishment, because God's will cannot be forced upon you, being an experience of total willingness. The Holy Spirit understands how to teach this, but you do not. That is why you need him, and why God gave him to you. Only his teaching will release your will to God's, uniting it with his power and glory and establishing them as yours. You share them as God shares them, because this is the natural outcome of their being. The will of the Father and of the Son are one by their extension. Their extension is the result of their oneness, holding their unity together by extending their joint will. This is perfect creation by the perfectly created, in union with the perfect Creator. The Father must give fatherhood to his Son, because his own fatherhood must be extended outward. You who belong in God have the holy function of extending his fatherhood by placing no limits upon it. Let the Holy Spirit teach you how to do this, for you can know what it means only of God himself. When you meet anyone, remember, it is a holy encounter. As you see him, you will see yourself. As you treat him, you will treat yourself. As you think of him, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in him, you will find yourself or lose yourself. Whenever two sons of God meet, they are given another chance at salvation. Do not leave anyone without giving salvation to him and receiving it yourself. For I am always there with you in remembrance of you. The goal of the curriculum, regardless of the teacher you choose, is know thyself. There is nothing else to seek. Everyone is looking for himself and for the power and the glory he thinks he has lost. Whenever you are with anyone, you have another opportunity to find them. Your power and glory are in him because they are yours. The ego tries to find them in yourself alone because it does not know where to look. The Holy Spirit teaches you that if you look only at yourself, you cannot find yourself, because that is not what you are. Whenever you are with a brother, you are learning that you're learning what you are because you are teaching what you are. He will respond either with pain or with joy, depending on which teacher you are following. He will be imprisoned or released according to your decision, and so will you. Never forget your responsibility to him, because it is your responsibility to yourself. Give him his place in the kingdom, and you will have yours. The kingdom cannot be found alone, and you who are the kingdom cannot find yourself alone. To achieve the goal of the curriculum, then, you cannot listen to the ego, whose purpose is to defeat its own goal. The ego does not know this because it does not know anything. But you can know it, and you will know it if you are willing to look at what the ego would make of you. This is your responsibility, because once you have really looked at it, you will accept the at-one-ment for yourself. What other choice could you make? Having made this choice, you will understand why you once believed that when you met someone else, you thought he was someone else. And every holy encounter in which you enter fully will teach you this is not so. You can encounter only part of yourself because you are part of God, who is everything. His power and glory are everywhere, and you cannot be excluded from them. The ego teaches that your strength is in you alone. The Holy Spirit teaches that all strength is in God, and therefore in you. God wills no one suffer. He does not will anyone to suffer for a wrong decision, including you. That is why he has given you the means for undoing it. Through his power and glory, all your wrong decisions are undone completely, releasing you and your brother from every imprisoning thought any part of the sonship holds. Wrong decisions have no power because they are not true. The imprisonment they seem to produce is no more true than they are. Power and glory belong to God alone. So do you. God gives whatever belongs to him because he gives of himself, and everything belongs to him. Giving of yourself is the function he gave you. Fulfilling it perfectly will let you remember what you have of him. And by this, you will remember also what you are in him. You cannot be powerless to do this, because this is your power. Glory is God's gift to you, because that is what he is. See this glory everywhere to remember what you are. Hello, Cynthia. Glad to have you join us.
Hello, everyone.
I love that. That was such an empowering read. Anybody have any thoughts about it?
We did have a thought that was irrelevant, which was that we went on another screen for a moment to look at something, and when we came back, we saw Carl with his glasses on his head like that, and it looked like this blank face with glasses, and for a moment we were like, "Oh my God, what's that?" It was just really weird. So we've been watching science fiction. That's probably what the problem is. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
I'm a good reflection of science fiction.
Yeah.
We like this little bit of the chapter. We like paragraph 4, really. We think, that's just so important. When we meet anybody, remember it's a holy encounter. As we see him, we will see ourselves. As we treat him, it's just, it's sort of perfect. I mean, and it's so hard to do. Well, it's so hard to do as long as we don't understand everything that that we will come to understand, and then it will be easy. We understand. But,
right.
But, it's like yesterday we were in a meeting, and there's a person there who often talks at length about things that are kind of irrelevant. And we received a message from somebody else saying, this is why we never stay in this meeting, because, there's these people who just go on for ages about something that isn't important. And we were sort of filled with like, with like, oh, love and tolerance and wanting to protect this person who was going on and on because we know that that's the best she can do at the moment. But then we find ourselves judging the person who's complained about them. And it's like, it's yeah. Then remembering that the person who's complained about them is also a perfect son of God. Then there's that kind of, so what do we do then? You know, like our whole life has been geared around kind of you know, judging people and making assessments and trying to change things. You know, it's the ego's whole game, isn't it? It's trying to change things. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
All we need to do is not let fear guide us, I guess. That's kind of where we are at the moment, anyway. We're being vigilant against fear, and it's like, yeah, so don't let fear of this person who's judging somebody else or fear of what they're doing, but just love them as well, which we can do. You know?
I love that. Thank you for sharing. It's such a, and I can think of how many times that's happened in situations that I've been in, right? And I think the interesting part of this read is that when we label them as them, then we're not actually seeing them, right? Because it's what we're reading is that it's us. Like if we can see ourselves, then we can truly see the other because there is no other. Right. And then we can accept the at-one-ment for ourselves. And it is because, you know, I think that's another reason why I love reading this, because it's such a good reminder that, it's all me. It's there is no other. And then and I love the part in here that says it has to be a total willingness. It has to be a total willingness to unite with the mind of God. Right? I think that said that in the beginning. And it's one of those moments you go, yes, that's right. Yeah, right here, paragraph 2, section 3. Yet the wish for other experience will block its accomplishment because God's will cannot be forced upon you, being an experience of total willingness.
Yeah.
So it's actually getting to that point where there is no other experience than knowing yourself perfectly at one with God and your brothers. Yeah. And it's just that, oh yeah, that's what it is. And how do I see myself in others again and again and again and again and again? Like so many opportunities to see ourselves not as separate, but as others. And what I also loved about this reading was, I think in the end, we want to have that feeling of empowerment. We don't like to feel disempowered. So in the last paragraph, it goes into saying, to what else except all power and glory can the Holy Spirit appeal to restore God's kingdom? His appeal then is merely to what the kingdom is and to acknowledge it.
I was pretty moved by by that last paragraph too, because when I started out in my life, you know, being an artist wasn't functional when I tried to decide what I wanted to be, and I decided to become a cook, which my father would always say, "You're a servant." And I said, "Yep, that's exactly right. I'm serving others." And the whole thing was giving of yourself is a function he gave you, and fulfilling it perfectly will let you remember that you you have of him. And so giving to others and serving others is been a majority of my life, and I've always felt very empowered by that, by giving all my effort towards giving everything that I have to other people makes it worth living. And it was nice to see it said in this way.
Yeah, and as you are giving everything you have to others, you are also giving it to yourself because you are the other,
That's exactly right.
right? So it's just a constant circle of at one mint, giving, receiving, giving, receiving. And the last sentence in paragraph 7, you are part of him who is all power and glory and are therefore as unlimited as he is. Right? And I think when we finally know ourselves as all of that power, all of that glory, we know ourselves as everyone and everything. And we can experience that in that process of being in that circle of giving, receiving, giving, receiving. It's just like a generator, right? That just feeds into that whole at one mint. And then it's just like, whoosh, we feel that connection.
Mhm. Definitely.
Yeah. Exciting. Anybody else have anything?
I had an experience yesterday that, you keep getting these nudges and you just come closer and closer. But when I experience the pure knowing that goes beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond any thinking or knowledge that I have, it's just so profound to be like, yeah, I've got this. And I knew I've been nudged along a line where my daughter passed away in 1985, a long time ago. And I certainly was able to say, I wrote a poem that's on her grave about how our lives were now entwined forever. She was part of me. As I grew in my spiritual awareness and awakening, I recognized that, she was truly then part of me, which meant there was no separation. But still, apparently, that was still knowledge and not knowing, because when I would tell that story, I would almost always end it with, but I would give anything to undo that and have her back in my arms. And so, it's certainly a heartfelt thing to say, if any of you can imagine what it's like to witness your child dying and not having her. She was 6.
Mm-hmm.
But yesterday, I recognized that I no longer had a need to say that, because I truly now believe that she and I are one, and that there's like this benefit, and my life has been enhanced by this non-separateness. And so I can see where I was her parent and she was given to me, and we had those years. And then it's almost like she became my parent. She became the God in me, that spark that kept, guiding me to where I am now and where we are as a joined entity now. And so to recognize that absolutely profoundly, that I don't, that I don't need her to be back in the physical, that I have never lost her, was just so profound. And it just came out yesterday in church as the musical person had picked a song that I had used for Jamie's memorial, which is The Greatest Love by Whitney Houston. And as I was singing the song, I just recognized that I was there, that the deep knowing truth has now become my belief and my state of being.
That's beautiful. Thank you so
It
much
only-
for sharing that.
You know, it only took, what, 38 years, 39 years?
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I often think I have not had a child pass, but my brother and my mother and my father have all come to me in dreams, and I have experienced that feeling of at-one-ment with them, and that feeling of melding into oneness. And I've also seen their spirit in my daughter and my son, and I've watched some of the behaviors and the voices, and the laughter is similar. And anyone who is familiar with the work of Seth, the book Seth speaks about a spirit not just bound into one physical entity within the illusion, but obviously can go into many different entities simultaneously, including creatures, animals, trees, which totally makes sense, right? Because isn't that what at-one-ment is? Like, if I can see myself in all of you and all of creation, then it would make sense that our spirits are obviously can't be bound to one physical entity. And I had an interesting dream, I think I shared with all of you at one point, where whatever this being was, it seemed human in form, but I can't think of a face that went with it. Not that I was looking for a face, but just recognizing it was a human kind of entity, asking me what I wanted to be in my next life. And I said, well, what do you mean, what? And he said, well, what do you want to be? I said, well, do you mean who? And they said, no, what? You can be anything. And I said, anything? And they said, yeah, you can be anything. And I said, well, I can be the earth? And they said, yeah, you can be the earth. And there are many beings being the earth. So you will also be enmeshed with other beings being the earth. And I thought for a minute, that'd be so cool to be the earth. And then, I didn't answer because I wasn't quite sure if that's what I wanted to be. And I remember waking up the next day, and I have never looked at the earth again in the same way. Now I look at it as a living being. Like, there are many beings being the earth, and I am so much more careful and loving and respectful of the earth, even within the illusion. Okay, it's the illusion still, but it just gives you a different appreciation for everything, right? When you know that within this projection of this holographic illusion, all beings are everything, and I am all beings, right?
But Seth talks about how there is no such thing as time, too, that we are all these beings all at the same time.
All at the same time, right?
Yeah, it's even in the different dimensions. We're all
Sure.
yeah. I'm listening to that.
Well,
I'm listening to Seth speaks like while I'm traveling. So it's
yes.
really quite interesting.
Similar to the story of the egg, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, it's a really fun read. Anyway, we're getting a little off track. Anybody have anything else they'd like?
I'm part of a Seth group that meets on Zoom on Saturdays. They meet in person in Minneapolis, but a whole bunch of us come on to the Zoom portion of it.
That's fun. I love that. Okay, are we ready to continue? Anybody else have anything else they'd like to share? Okay. Share my screen again. All right, looks like we are on to the gift of freedom. If God's will for you is complete peace and joy, unless you experience only this, you must be refusing to acknowledge his will. His will does not vacillate, being changeless forever. When you are not at peace, it can only be because you do not believe you are in him. Yet he is all in all. His peace is complete, and you must be included in it. His laws govern you because they govern everything. You cannot exempt yourself from his laws, although you can disobey them. Yet if you do, and only if you do, you will feel lonely and helpless because you are denying yourself everything. I come as a light into a world that does deny itself everything. It does this simply by dissociating itself from everything. It is therefore an illusion of isolation, maintained by fear of the same loneliness that is its illusion. I said that I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. That is why I am the light of the world. If I am with you in the loneliness of the world, the loneliness is gone. You cannot maintain the illusion of loneliness if you are not alone. My purpose then is still to overcome the world. I do not attack it, but my light must dispel it because of what it is. Light does not attack darkness, but it does shine it away. If my light goes with you everywhere, you shine it away with me. The light becomes ours, and you cannot abide in darkness any more than darkness can abide wherever you go. The remembrance of me is the remembrance of yourself and of him who sent me to you. You were in darkness until God's will was done completely by any part of the sonship. When this was done, it was perfectly accomplished by all. How else could it be perfectly accomplished? My mission was simply to unite the will of the sonship with the will of the Father, by being aware of the Father's will myself. This is the awareness I came to give you, and your problem in accepting it is the problem of this world. Dispelling it is salvation, and in this sense, I am the salvation of the world. The world must therefore despise and reject me, because the world is the belief that love is impossible. If you will accept the fact that I am with you, you are denying the world and accepting God. My will is his, and your decision to hear me is the decision to hear his voice and abide in his will. As God sent me to you, so will I send you to others, and I will go to them with you, so we can teach them peace and union. Do not think the world needs peace. Do you not think the world needs peace as much as you do? Do you not want to give it to the world as much as you want to receive it? For unless you do, you will not receive it. If you want to have it of me, you must give it. Healing does not come from anyone else. You must accept guidance from within. Guidance must be what you want, or it will be meaningless to you. That is why healing is a collaborative venture. I can tell you what to do, but you must collaborate by believing that I know what you should do. Only then will your mind choose to follow me. Without this choice, you could not be healed, because you would have decided against healing, and this rejection of my decision for you makes healing impossible. Healing reflects our joint will. This is obvious when you consider what healing is for. Healing is the way in which the separation is overcome. Separation is overcome by union. It cannot be overcome by separating. The decision to unite must be unequivocal, or the mind itself is divided and not whole. Your mind is the means by which you determine your own condition, because mind is the mechanism of decision. It is the power by which you separate or join, and experience pain or joy accordingly. My decision cannot overcome yours, because yours is as powerful as mine. If it were not so, the sons of God would be unequal. All things are possible through our joint decision, but mine alone cannot help you. Your will is as free as mine, and God himself would not go against it. I cannot will what God does not will. I can offer my strength to make yours invincible, but I cannot oppose your decision without competing with it and thereby violating God's will for you. Nothing God created can oppose your decision, as nothing God created can oppose his will. God gave your will its power, which I can only acknowledge in honor of his. If you want to be like me, I will help you, knowing that we are alike. If you want to be different, I will wait until you change your mind. I can teach you, but only you can choose to listen to my teaching. How else can it be if God's kingdom is freedom? Freedom cannot be learned by tyranny of any kind, and the perfect equality of all God's sons cannot be recognized through the dominion of one mind over another. God's sons are equal in will, all being the will of their Father. This is the only lesson I came to teach. If your will were not mine, it would not be our Father's. This would mean you have imprisoned yours and have not let it be free. Of yourself, you can do nothing. Because of yourself, you are nothing. I am nothing without the Father, and you are nothing without me. Because by denying the Father, you deny yourself. I will always remember you, and in my remembrance of you lies your remembrance of yourself. In our remembrance of each other lies our remembrance of God. And in this remembrance lies your freedom, because your freedom is in him. Join, then, with me in praise of him and you, whom he created. This is our gift of gratitude to him, which he will share with all his creations, to whom he gives equally whatever is acceptable to him. Because it is acceptable to him, it is the gift of freedom, which is his will for all his sons. By offering freedom, you will be free. Freedom is the only gift you can offer to God's sons, being an acknowledgement of what they are and what he is. Freedom is creation, because it is love. Whom you seek to imprison, you do not love. Therefore, when you seek to imprison anyone, including yourself, you do not love him, and you cannot identify with him. When you imprison yourself, you are losing sight of your true identification with me and with the Father. Your identification is with the Father and with the Son. It cannot be with one and not the other. If you are part of one, you must be part of the other, because they are one. The Holy Trinity is holy because it is one. If you exclude yourself from this union, you're perceiving the Holy Trinity as separated. You must be included in it because it is everything. Unless you take your place in it and fulfill your function as part of it, the Holy Trinity is as bereft as you are. No part of it can be imprisoned if its truth is to be known. Oh, that was empowering.
Mm.
We are the Holy Trinity. Any comments about this? Or anything? Did it stir anything in any of you? Any thoughts? Any experiences? It was interesting, Mary, I noticed when you said it was only knowledge, your remembrance of your oneness with your daughter until you were able to actually incorporate it. And I remember at one point reading, knowledge plus experience is wisdom. You can have the knowledge and not know it until you have the experience with the knowledge, and then it becomes the wisdom and the knowing.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I perceive it. And that wisdom is just like a true inner knowing that becomes your being. And at least for me, I recognize that my beliefs have then totally changed, because that's where I'm now coming from. It's an integral part of me that no longer has any separation.
Right. I think that's
And
why the
that's
lessons are
for
so
me,
powerful.
between knowledge and, yep, go ahead.
No, I didn't interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I was just summarizing and saying that's the difference for me between knowledge and knowing. But maybe that knowing is, a wisdom. Not the thinking plus experiencing, that open channel of connection from the head to the heart allows the soul to resonate with that, and then the spirit is set free.
Right. So the challenge is to look and see our brothers and know them as ourselves. And see ourselves in them. And the oneness that unites us with that one mind of God.
We found 5 and 6 interesting this time reading, talking about particularly 6, 7, freedom cannot be learned by tyranny of any kind. And yeah, basically saying that like Jesus or God or any kind of can't kind of heal us against our will, if you like, can't overpower. We're not finding the right words at all here, but like so many times we've sort of prayed and like, take this away from me, stop me from doing these things that I don't want to do. And it's like, nope, we're not going to do that, because your will that would be teaching you that our will is more powerful than yours, that. And it's saying, no, everything that you want, you can have, but you've got to want it kind of wholeheartedly. And then you will it with, then you will with God and you will with us. And there's nothing in the universe that could possibly stop that from being But yeah, this, yeah, I suppose it's like sinking deeper, this idea that our will is, we see, we're even hesitating to say our will is as powerful as God's, because it doesn't feel right saying that. It's like we want to say, no, don't, how, blasphemy. But yeah, indeed. Our will is as powerful as God's, but when we don't will with God, then we're not really willing at all. So then it does become a little bit, we're not in conflict. You know, our will can't be in conflict with God's will, and our will's going to win out over God's will, although it can feel as if that's happening when you know, when we are repeating painful things or experiences, that it can feel as if, you know, this isn't, yeah, like with the lessons, like God's will for me is perfect happiness. And we had that like a week or so ago, and it's like, so why aren't we happy then? If God's will is happiness, then why am I not happy today? And that's because we were imagining that we could will separately. We were listening to the ego. We were thinking of ourselves as separate. We were responding to fear. And as soon as we stopped doing all of those things, then we were happy. Now we'll stop talking. Sorry, we're going on a bit. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I love when you go on a bit, because it's relevant, right, to all of our experiences within this illusion, and it helps us all to kind of reimagine, and as we go along, okay, what could my choice be now if I'm not happy? What can I choose now that could make me will with the power of God, which is my will, right? Instead of willing with the ego, which only makes me weaker.
We had an experience that's kind of connected to this in our timeline, where we realized that a friend of ours saw us in a way that we didn't like. We're like, and we said to them, we just realized that you think this about us. And they're like, yeah. And we're like, but we don't want you to think this about us. And they're like, well, we can't help what we think. And we actually had like a sleepless night over it, because we were desperately trying to figure out how we could get this person to change their mind about what they think of us.
Right.
And then like about, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning, we suddenly realized it doesn't matter what they think of us. And we would say that always, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of us. But it was more than that. It was like, oh, we know who we are. Like, okay, we don't know who we are like as fully as we want to know who we are. But it was like, oh, we know who we are. Oh, we're beautiful and wonderful, and we're the light, and we're love, and we're peace, and we're joy. It doesn't matter what they think. They can't see that. Yeah, we just need to see that in them, and etc. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking to myself, right, your opinion of me is none of my business, because it's all being put through the filter of their early indoctrination and their early experience and their, you know, their pain and their suffering, and their projection of their own inner pain and suffering gets projected out into their opinion of us. And then I went a step further and said, but you are me. So there is no other. And even though your experience might be different, in truth, we are one. You know, so it's like you almost go to that next step.
Yeah, we want to say something before we lose it. It's like, it was us, we made up the picture of what they thought of us, and we projected it onto them. Oh, you think this about us? And it wasn't accurate, because we don't know, you know what, even if we accept that they have a separate. So we made up the story, and we're like, oh my goodness, they think this about us. And so we were arguing with that as if it was a truth. And it was only when we realized that, yeah, thank you, that's really helpful.
Yeah, and what you said was really helpful too. So I love the
Yeah.
dialogue. Yeah, it's great. All right, any other thoughts? Keep going. The undivided will of the sonship. Can you be separated from your identification and be at peace? Dissociation is not a solution. It is a delusion. The delusional believe that truth will assail them, and they do not recognize it because they prefer the delusion, judging truth as something they do not want. They perceive their illusions, which block knowledge. Help them by offering them your unified mind on their behalf, as I am offering you mine on behalf of yours. Alone, we can do nothing, but together, our minds fuse into something whose power is far beyond the power of its separated parts. By not being separate, the mind of God is established in ours and as ours. This mind is invincible because it is undivided. The undivided will of the sonship is the perfect creator, being wholly in the likeness of God, whose will it is. You cannot be exempt from it if you are to understand what it is and what you are. By the belief that your will is separate from mine, you're exempting yourself from the will of God, which is yourself. Yet to heal is still to make whole. Therefore, to heal is to unite with those who are like you, because perceiving this likeness is to recognize the Father. If your perfection is in Him and only in Him, how can you know it without recognizing Him? The recognition of God is the recognition of yourself. There is no separation of God and His creation. You will realize this when you understand that there is no separation between your will and mine. Let the love of God shine upon you by your acceptance of me. My reality is yours and His. By joining your mind with mine, you are signifying your awareness that the will of God is one. God's oneness and ours are not separate because His oneness encompasses ours. To join with me is to restore His power to you because we are sharing it. I offer you only the recognition of His power in you, but in that lies all truth. As we unite with Him. Glory be to the union of God and His holy sons. All glory lies in them because they are united. The miracles we do bear witness to the will of the Father for His Son, and to our joy in uniting with His will for us. When you unite with me, you are uniting without the ego, because I have renounced the ego in myself, and therefore cannot unite with yours. Our union is therefore the way to renounce the ego in you. The truth in both of us is beyond the ego. Our success in transcending the ego is guaranteed by God. And I share this confidence for both of us and all of us. I bring God's peace back to all His children because I received it of Him for us all. Nothing can prevail against our united wills, because nothing can prevail against God's. Would you know the will of God for you? Ask it of me, who know it for you, and you will find it. I will deny you nothing, as God denies me nothing. Ours is simply the journey back to God, who is our home. Whenever fear intrudes anywhere along the road to peace, it is because the ego has attempted to join the journey with us and cannot do so. Sensing defeat and angered by it, the ego regards itself as rejected and becomes retaliative. You are invulnerable to its retaliation because I am with you. On this journey, you have chosen me as your companion instead of the ego. Do not attempt to hold on to both, or you will try to go in different directions and will lose the way. The ego's way is not mine, but it is also not yours. The Holy Spirit has one direction for all minds, and the one he taught me is yours. Let us not lose sight of his direction through illusions, for only illusions of another direction can obscure the one for which God's voice speaks in all of us. Never accord the ego the power to interfere with the journey. It has none, because the journey is the way to what is true. Leave all illusions behind and reach beyond all attempts of the ego to hold you back. I go before you because I am beyond the ego. Reach therefore for my hand because you want to transcend the ego. My strength will never be wanting, and if you choose to share it, you will do so. I give it willingly and gladly because I need you as much as you need me. Ah, that is lovely. Simple, but not always easy.
We had a nice moment just reading that line. I go before you because I am beyond the ego. And it's just a flash of like what it would mean to be beyond the ego, to have done with it and, you know, just once and for all kind of put it to rest. Yeah, and it's just a flash of how beautiful that would be, will be, is, if time doesn't exist, then yeah.
And it's interesting too, right? Because it's right there. It's just saying, take my hand. Take my hand. And what do we say? We say, oh,
hang on, not yet.
wait, maybe, not sure. Right? Just take my hand and go beyond the ego. That's it. Simple.
Yeah, we really want that, but we just need to do this other stuff first. Sorry.
Right. And why is it that we feel we need to do the other stuff? Is it because we think it will change us? Is it because we think the world will disappear? Is it because we think we will disappear? I mean, why is it? What is that fear?
That's a very interesting question, which we're not going to answer. We're going to think about it. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like there's so much more. There's so much more. And once we take that hand, it won't be the end. It'll be the beginning of so much more.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's what you should be teaching your granddaughter.
Eventually I will be.
This is
She
the
takes
time
grandma's hand.
Yeah, take grandma's hand.
But I've noticed, like our son, Hazel, like the other day, he had a really horrible thing happened. He was like the head of this guild in World of Warcraft, and some of the other players got together and said they didn't like him and they were going to demote him from his position as an officer of the guild, which, you know, we can all, is a horrible thing to happen. And he was really upset for a few hours. And then he was like, yeah, you know, Mom, actually it's going to work out for the best, because actually I want to join a guild that's more, and he meant it. He wasn't, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, we got to that point where we could see how things were working out for the best when we were in our mid-30s, you know, and he's 15 and he's already like, he just got there so quickly. And
Amazing.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we think it does feel like we are evolving as a species. You know, I know a lot of people will say, well, a lot of people will say, oh, yeah, no, things aren't getting any better. Things just go around in circles. But, and obviously with such painful things happening in the world, it can be hard, but we believe that we're evolving. Yeah. Sorry, Carl, what were you
Right.
going to say?
No, I was just saying the only reason people think that it's so hard is because of how much more we see now. Things are so much better, but we see so much more, and there is so much heartache out there, but it's not as much as it was before, that when we weren't seeing it.
Right. That's true too.
I mean, things were
That's
so
true.
much worse when we were kids, so much worse, but nobody knew it because it just wasn't in our face all the time. Now that we have everything in our face 24/7, now it seems bad, but it's not
Yeah.
bad.
And I think as we have also evolved, we are more aware of how much worse it was, right? I
What
know I
was
was having this conversation with somebody else as a, you know, female within the illusion, growing up in a conservative small town where it was male dominated. You know, there was so much sexism that as a young female growing up within that era, I thought that was just normal, that that's how life was. Didn't know any different, right? And I would make the same inappropriate jokes that everybody else would, because my awareness and my level of ignorance was within that space. And as I have grown and expanded and learned, I look back and go, oh, wow.
those were bad jokes.
Well, not only that, but the behavior, you know, the behavior on all parts was just way different because it was so unenlightened and so unloving, you know, because of the nature of the ignorance and the experiences. And if we are just brave enough to accept that at one mint and take that hand, then so many more doors will open and so much more awareness will be shown to us that will then look back and go, what? Why was I so afraid to take that step?
As you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, in 20 years, people will be looking back on like the 2020s and be like, oh my goodness, there was so much hatred and so much violence and crime, you know, yeah. And it's so much better now. We're so much more aware. Yeah.
So much more aware, expanded, enlightened.
Yeah.
Coming from that place of at one mint. Any other thoughts before we close? Thank you, everyone, for joining. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate all of you and thank you for the conversation.
Thank you. See you next
Thank you,
All right.
everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.
Bye.